Today we are going to talk about verse number 8. So, verse 4 and 5, 6 and 7 and 8, these 5 verses are basically sharing with us that how to develop a spiritual vision. And first, in order for us to develop that vision, qualities of Lord is mentioned. That how inconceivable, achintya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is. Some of his qualities which are very contradictory. So devotee need to understand. And with that understanding, one should be able to see Krishna in each and every living being. How to see presence of Krishna in everything. And that seeing is the perfect seeing. And that seeing is the seeing of Utmadhikari. So Prabhupada is trying to give us the definition of Kanishta, Madhama, and Utmadhikari in context of how we see. So verse number 8 is the last verse for that section to develop the spiritual vision. And then if time permits, we'll also start the next segment, which is about Vidya and Avidya. And verse number 9 is going to talk to us about Avidya, of course, is not good. Avidya itself is basically not knowing who the soul is and what's the eternality of the soul is, and getting caught into the cycle of repeated birth and death. But also misguided Vidya. And we'll talk more about that. Misguided Vidya is even worse than Avidya. And this is very, very, very important concept, because I'll try to throw some light once we get into that segment. Sometimes, it appears that XYZ is doing so much charity, doing so much social work. Oh, Mr. XYZ, such a nice person. I don't know how or why certain things, some misfortunate things happens in somebody's life. Anyways, that's not the answer of all misfortune thing that happens in somebody's life. But it gives some perspective to see some of those things. So we'll try to basically see that how these people who are misguided are worse than the people who do not have knowledge as such. So this is a very beautiful verse. This is not Anustup verse, Chanda, Chand. This definitely is not Anustup. But which one is that? I will have to do some research. I haven't counted the number of syllables to find out how many syllables this verse has. Also, it's not 4 pada. So one line, the verses mostly like Bhagavad Gita verses and Srimad Bhagavatam verses, most of them are Anustup verse, which means it has 32 syllables. And each pada will have 8 syllables. Its syllable is an independent word. Either it's Hraswa or Dirgha that can be pronounced separately. So how we decide how many syllables it is, that's a separate topic. but this is definitely a little, I have to find out. Definitely, it's also not Shardulya Bikriti or Mandakranta type of. This is a different type of meter for this verse. But let's chant it. Sa prayaga chukram akayam avarnam asnavidam sudham apapavidham kavir manisi paribhu swayambhu yatha tathyato arthan vayadhak chashwativya shambhaya samabhaya sha paryagak, such qualified person. So this is referring to the person we spoke in verse number 6 and 7. Chukram, omnipotent. So this verse is basically talking about eternal qualities, how the qualities of Krishna. So it starts first referring to the quality or person who are seeing presence of Krishna everywhere. And then it goes from there. So Sa Paryagak means such qualified person. And then now we get into the qualities of Lord. Chukram, Lord is omnipotent. Akayam, without material body. We have to use this word here. Akayam, akayam. Kaya means body, and akaya, the one who does not have body. So now people may understand, oh, if somebody is person, then how that person is without body? Well, the body is not the material body. Satchit Ananda form, that's the form of the Lord. It's not Chitjal Pavagana Samira. It's not made of, gross material element. And then Avarnam, without any fault. And Asnaviram, Lord's body does not have pain. Material body has to have the pain to make it function, but Lord's body does not have pain. Shuddham, pure, no trace of any impurities. Apapabidham, uncontaminated by sin or piety. Kavir Manisi, Paribhu Swayambhu, omniscient, intelligent, Manisi, Paribhu, controller of all, and Swayambhu, self-sufficient. So each word has a separate meaning, and it's given there. Omniscient, intelligent, controller of all, and self-sufficient. Yatha tathyato artham vyadhak chasha tivya samavya chasvitavya samavya. That's the real way to pronounce it. He has been fulfilling everyone's desire since time and immemorial. So such a person must actually know the greatest of all. So how the whole thing, if you put together, flows. Such a person must factually know the greatest of all, the personality of Godhead, who is unembodied, omniscient, beyond reproach, without veins, pure and uncontaminated, the self-sufficient philosopher who has been fulfilling everyone's desire since time and immemorial. So such a person must factually know. And everybody else also should must know these qualities of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's very important now to study these verses or the purport, bhavartha, the deeper meaning of these verses under the guidance of a devotee who are falling into a disciplic succession. And when we are saying falling into a disciplic succession, this is further been very nicely mentioned to us in the next verse, verse number 8. Because if we do not try to study these things as it has been given to us as it is, and if we try to use our buddhi, intelligence is good to understand what is being shared with us. So for example, we do need some degree of understanding to read Sanskrit, read the English word, be able to understand the meaning of it if somebody is saying. But buddhi should not be used unnecessarily to concoct on certain subject, especially if it's related to Supreme Personality of Godhead. Buddhi is important only when to receive, if the knowledge is coming to the descending way. But Buddhi should not be used to ascend. Oh, I'm very smart, so I can concoct certain thing and I can put certain thing in a philosophical way, and if it makes sense, 1 + 1 is 2, that means 2 + 1 is going to be 3, like that type of logical thing. I'm not saying that we should not be logical, please don't consider me wrong in that way. The point that is being made here is that unnecessary, not trying to drive this imperfect intelligence too much and trying to come to the conclusion of certain thing based upon the imperfection that we have. We have already tons of imperfection, and on top of that, adding one another layer of imperfection. So some of these words we have to understand their meaning as acharyas and as our disciplic succession has been teaching us, and that's the meaning we have to abide with. That's the real meaning, or this is a real understanding of instructions of Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu, that without any mental concoction, we accept it. So, akayam doesn't mean that Lord is Brahman. Lord has no body. Yes, Lord do have a feature which is beyond what you and I can do from our body. But that doesn't mean that if Lord's legs and Lord's hands can do the same type of job, that means he is not a person. That understanding is a very atheistic understanding, or maybe not a complete understanding. So this verse, when you read the purport, Srila Prabhupada is very nicely trying to help us understand that Lord has all of these, multifarious, inconceivable attributes in his personality, but this personality and these attributes doesn't, make Lord impersonal. Rather, he is a person. So we'll go to, and I have a picture here. I'll talk this picture later. So don't get distracted with that one. Just we'll try to flow through the purport of this verse. So Prabhupada starts saying that first, Lord is a person. First powerful statement Divine Grace is making. Lord is a person, and one should not get misled when we are talking about that Lord body and soul is the same. That type of misconception cannot be there. And then Prabhupada is giving an example of fire, heat, and light. Okay, heat and light is coming from fire. So fire has that heat and light, but fire has their own identity. Heat is there, light is there, but fire is fire. And then Prabhupada says that Lord is not limited, like we are limited. We can talk, I can only talk to my mind, using my mouth. I cannot talk with my ears. My ears can only hear. But, hearing cannot happen with my mouth. But Lord is not limited to do certain activity with a certain limb of his body. And then right after that, Srila Prabhupada starts talking about Archa Vigraha. that one should not think that the form of the Lord is material. Rather, it's a mercy of Lord that for imperfect living being, when I say imperfect living being, means living being which have those four defects and who have imperfect vision. We have imperfect vision. And of course, I have to put the glass. That is another layer of imperfection, but we are imperfect. So an imperfect person cannot even see Krishna when Krishna is present. And very beautiful example. We don't have to go too far. Krishna, says in Bhagavad Gita that whoever sees me, Mayi Sarvatra Pashyati, Sarva Mayi Pashyati. Whoever is seeing me everywhere and sees everything in me, for that person, I am never lost. And that person is not lost to me. So, are we seeing like that? It's not a very tough question, right? Are we seeing Krishna everywhere? If I'm not seeing Krishna everywhere, that means Krishna is also not seeing me everywhere. Or I'm not being seen by Krishna, that's the better way to say. So that's what it is. So it's not that we have to go too far away to say that, I do not fall into that category. At least I do fall into that category. Who is not seeing Krishna everywhere. So if I'm not seeing Krishna everywhere, I'm not being seen by Krishna also everywhere. So we have been talking that the real understanding is that one should think that each and everything that's happening due to presence of Krishna. Okay. Due to presence of Krishna. And we talked about plant growing. We are seeing the picture here, weather changing. There's something happening because XYZ is doing. No, it's happening because of the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Arch Bigra, Sri Radha Shyam Sundar deity, at our house, you all have deity of Gaur Nitai, Jagannath, Balu, Subhadra, Maharani. They talk. And I learn a lot, in the morning when I chant. If I have some problem, I personally talk. I request, my dear Lord, give me some understanding. What should I do? And, I get inspiration. I say, okay, this is coming in my temple. Some, not too emotional, but, you will see Krishna is there. He is there. No doubt about it. Maybe I do not see Krishna every time when I go to my altar room, but sometimes I do feel like that, there is presence of Krishna here. No doubt about it. If you devotee have come to our house and they said that, the aura is different. So now I'm trying to pray, but presence of Krishna, okay, in your house, if you have, deity, if you really very seriously, worshipping the deity, whenever you are going into the deity room, pay your obeisances. Don't just, get into your deity room, but rather open the door nicely and pay obeisances, and then do whatever you have to do. So if 20 times you are going into your deity room, 20 times you need to pay obeisances. How many, Prabhupada said that, keep on bending yourself as much as you can. So those are the things, we have to start, developing that spiritual vision. Okay. And that's why this picture, I posted here deliberately to reinforce that these things, when we see presence of Krishna. Okay. So we have to train our mind to Sri Krishna. And Pancharatri Vidhi, Vadhi Bhakti. Vadhi Bhakti helps us. Vadhi Bhakti helps us getting up in the morning, chanting around, seriously going to temple, making it compulsory to have some attachment for Srila Prabhupada's movement. What I am contributing towards his divine grace. What is my contribution? Am I doing something to please him, or am I always doing everything to please myself? So those are the things, we have to force. And then, our vision will be broader, and then we'll be able to see things, as Sastra is saying. A person with poor fund of knowledge cannot understand the omnipotency of the Lord. Okay, that's what Srila Prabhupada is saying here. That Lord is present, but if someone has poor fund of knowledge, then that person cannot see the presence of Lord. Lord awards enjoyment to living entity as prasada. Merely qualification is not sufficient, but Lord's sanction is also required. This is very, very, very important concept. This is very important point that is being made here in this purport. And Prabhupada is writing here that somebody wants to be judge of a court. That person works hard, qualify himself or herself to be, selected as a judge. But there should be opening and there should be position for the judge also. Then that person will be recruited as a judge. So one can be only employed as a judge if there is a need for a judge. Likewise, so just merely qualification is not sufficient, but there are some other elements, other attributes that has to be together for one to act as a judge. So just merely getting the qualification is not sufficient to be someone or something. Rather, it has to be sanctioned by Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this thing, I think that once I spoke about that will versus sanction. What is the will of the Lord? And what is sanction of the Lord? Everything that's happening might not be will of the Lord. But if it's happening, it is sanctioned by Lord. So you and I, where we are situated, whatever status, cadre, stature, education, beauty, Shuchi, Srimate, whatever we have been given, don't think that or job that you and I have is all my qualification. Okay, there is another element also to that, and that is the Lord has to sanction. If Lord doesn't sanction, it will not happen. I'm from a village, and whenever I go India, I go and spend time with my mom, dad, and I go and see still the people who are poor. Still, they are still same poor, same degree of poverty. Nothing has changed. They are working, if of course, much harder than I did, 10, 15, 20 years while I was going to school. But I was able to change my status, my status of life, or I was able to move myself up and get into certain, way of living, but they are still poor. So, if we have become somebody XYZ, don't be too proud. And when I say don't be too proud, don't get too much bogged up also. Rather, give some time to yourself to think. That's why these discussions are very important, because it helps us understand that what exactly we should be doing. So there is we should not forget that there is some part is coming from Lord also. And then Prabhupada says that he has been fulfilling everyone's desire since time immemorial. And what type of desire? Living beings are asking as a beggar. Following up, next paragraph of verses. Living beings are asking as a beggar. They go and they beg. What they beg? I don't like hot. I want cold. I don't want cold. I don't like hot. I want a spring. There's some example. My dear Lord, I want karmic people. They are going and they are saying that give me, artha, kama, Gyan is going and asking that, my dear Lord, give me moksha, right? So everybody is going and begging towards the Supreme Personality of, towards the a certain goal that they have, and they are begging to Lord. Prabhupada is saying that the real, the real liberation, or real mercy, or real begging is that, begging to the Lord, my dear Lord, how can I go back to home, back to Godhead? Jivanga said, Prabhupada ki jai. Such a beautiful, writing. So that's the real, begging. One should beg, my dear Lord, how can I come out of this, this attachment, samsriti, this attachment that I am bound into it or bound into it, and not trying to force ourselves to attach in the same thing, knowingly, rather, praying. There will, Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna Bhartijana Hiname Bhakta Parnashati. That's not going to be failed. There might be some, hassle, something else, something, but ultimately, a spiritual vision we are talking about means thinking that the basic foundation is our consciousness, knowing that I'm being sustained and supported by Krishna. And that will differentiate us from others. The distinction is not, in just saying merely some words, but distinction is basically in our action, striving, how I can help myself, how I can help others, how I can help the living beings who are suffering in the material world, because they are part and parcel of the Krishna. Mamayansa Jiva Loka Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. This Jiva Bhuta Sanatana is my part and parcel. So that is the reason that this section of verses are asking us to develop. And then in the last paragraph, Srila Prabhupada is writing that Lord is Shuddham and He is Apap Vidham. So there are tons and tons of impurities out here. And Lord can purify all the impurities that we have in our heart. These words have meaning for us. When we say Lord is, Shuddham, He is pure. He has power to purify. His purity is that by His power, He can purify all the impurities. But those impurities will not impurify Him. So we might be so impure, but Lord has power to purify us. And when He's trying to purify us, that doesn't mean that He will become impure. Prabhupada has written multiple times that, sun, when sunshine comes, it's basically evaporating all the, bad, filthy, dirty things that's there. But that doesn't, impact sun. And then Apap Bidham, that those sheen, S-I-N, sin that people are doing, or those sins, or when Lord is purifying somebody's sin, Lord is not, impacted by it at all. Plus, Lord association is very powerful. Doesn't matter how impure one is, by associating with Lord, all the impurity will be carried out or carried away. So when we associate with Sri Krishna Balaram in our temple, Nitya Nataraj in our temple, with every association, if we pray, my dear Lord, I know that I have some weakness, and I want those to get out of my heart. I want to be a person who is fully dedicated in your service. You manifest it. Totally your responsibility. My desire is to serve you. I know my heart is so weak. My attachment is so strong that I cannot handle. But my dear Lord, if you want, you can make me handle it. You can bring me, you can give me that intelligence by which I can handle it. So each association that we have with the Lord Archivigra form or his advanced, devotee, those associations are working on our purification. And slowly, we'll be purified. If the sun, which is material object, is so powerful that we can hardly begin to imagine the purifying strength of the all-powerful Lord. So if the sun, which is material object, is so powerful, so sun can be so powerful, then how powerful our Lord is. Okay, so that's how this verse, basically the purpose of this this verse goes. So the quality of the Lord that is mentioned here, he's a person with a beautiful form. He is unembedded or kayam and without vein. He's omnipotent and omniscient. He maintains, sanctions, and reciprocates. He is fulfiller of desire. Yatha tathyato arthan. He is fulfilling the desire of all living being, all living being. He is the greatest of all, Prabhu. He is the self-sufficient and independent, Swambhu. He is beyond reproach. Varnam, Lord is Sudham, and he is Papa Vidham. Okay, so these are some of the points that mention. Then we'll move to verse number 9. And verse number 9 is the verse from a different section, where now we are transitioning to a section where we'll hear about Vidya and Avidya. So this verse goes like this: Andham tamah parvishanti e avidyam upasate tato bhuvaya ivate tamo yayu vidyayam ratah. Andham tamah parvishanti e avidyam upasate. People who worship avidya or the culture of nations, that is those who engage in the material life, enters the region of deep darkness or ignorance. So andham tamah parvishanti e avidyam upasate. So one, upasate means upasana, upasate, worship, or upasate, bhajanti, bhajate. These are, kurvanti, kurvate. These are the words that has kind of, similar, essential meaning. So if somebody is doing, or somebody is engaged, somebody is, doing things which are avidya purvak, then andham tamah parvishanti. That, person, andha, they have to enter into the a darker region, which is basically the cycle of rebirth, birth, and death. Tato bhuya ivate tamu yau vidyayam ratah. That's another. This is very important point here to be noted. What's the still are those engaged in the culture of misguided knowledge or study of Veda, but not having the knowledge of Bhakti. So Vidya, of course, is going to lead one to the repeated birth and death. Avidya, of course, is undesirable, but a Vidya, very important, a Vidya which is not talking Bhakti of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then that Vidya is worse than Avidya. That is the meaning of this particular verse. So we'll talk more as we go along. So Avidya, these are just some of the essential points from each paragraph of the purport of this verse. So avidya or ignorance is undoubtedly dangerous, but vidya or knowledge is even more dangerous when mistaken or misguided. I'll take the time to explain that, but let me go through it first. Vidya, what is Vidya? Vidya is that knowing Isavasam idam sarvam, everything belongs to Supreme Personality of God. So verse number 1 that we read, and then I know series of other verses talking about that we should comply or we should try to align our activity as per the verse number 1. That's Vidya. But not accepting that or being in the forgetfulness is avidya. That's second paragraph Prabhupada is saying. In the modern civilization, here is very important point. 99.9% of the people are engaged in the activity of sense gratification under the flags of all types of ism, nationalism, this ism, altruism, socialism, all the isms things, as usual. Prabhupada's right. It's there. But the point to be noted here is that 99% of the modern civilization are Shudra. They are engaged in sense gratification. So are we not in that 99.9%? Not? Are we or not? That's the question. Open question. But that's what the status of the society is. Why they are, Shudra? Because they are not aware with the Vidya. What is the Vidya? Vidya is that Ishvara Brahma Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadi Radhi Govinda Sarar Karnam. That is the real Vidya. So 99.9%, and we'll talk some of those things, once I go through all of this. The advancement of learning by a godless people is as dangerous as a valuable jewel on the hood of a cobra. Many examples like that, jewel on the hood of a cobra, or decorating a dead body, or milk touched by a snake. All of these examples, we hear. Or pearls, in the mouth of a snake, moti in the mouth of a snake. All of these things, we hear. So the so-called advancement is like that. Prabhupada is writing in the purport that in India it has been seen that when somebody dies, they decorate their dead body and they go out on a procession with musical bands and everything. So what does it do to the body, to the soul? It doesn't matter how much decoration we do to the dead body. Soul is not going to be impacted by it. But if we chant the name of Krishna for the welfare of the departed soul, yes, it will for sure. So these things are not light and not simple. And just by hearing and being able to say I should not pretend that I know this. And we'll talk about that little later. I have a topic today that I want to discuss with you. That, when we read Srila Prabhupada's, writing, we see so many repetition. Many things we are hearing here that might not be very first time you are hearing. But why things are repeated? That's the question. Please keep on thinking about that. I would like to hear some of the input. What's the importance? What's the beauty of things are being repeated? Or when things are, when things get repeated, how does it, how we should take it when we are hearing the things we have heard before? So some of these examples are given here, that not worry too much about decorating the dead body, rather work for the soul. And then Prabhupada talks about Maya Parit Jnana and Ved Bad Rata. Ved Bad Rata. Rata is basically, Rataha, so that somebody who is just mugging, memorizing things. Rataha, that's from there that it comes. Ved, Vedvad Rataha, the one who is basically rutting the Veda. Just, talk to them. They can, keep on perfect chanda, perfect, meter, recite they will all the verse and, all the toughest, part of the philosophy. But they themselves have no understanding. They don't do any, bhakti. So these two personalities are very dangerous. And I'll talk about that later. Ultimate purpose of all religion is to bring one back to God. So ultimate purpose of all religion or religious activity also, or activity that anybody is engaged in, the purpose of that is to little bit move towards Krishna. Our discussion here that's happening. What is the intent? The intent is that while I'm talking Krishna Katha, it should invoke some higher degree of devotion towards Krishna. While you are hearing, that hearing should invoke some higher, some degree of invocation, some degree of devotion towards Krishna, a little bit higher. Yesterday I had this doubt. Today I have that thing taken care, so I feel a little bit more close to Krishna, tiny bit closer to Krishna. That's bona fide association. Each association of sadhu, not so juggleries of my knowledge, PowerPoint, beautiful slide, and that's not the purpose. The purpose is that transformation. The purpose is that by hearing or by sharing Krishna Katha, the goal, the mood is that how can I get a little bit more bhakti? Some degree of impurity that I had in my life, how can I turn that into some extent of purity? What should I strive? What should I do to get a little bit advanced where I was 10 days, 20 days back? That's slow, little bit. Doesn't happen. I have been saying that unless until we are Kripa Siddha. So don't think that ultimate purpose of all religion is to bring one back to God. It means we are chanting the name of Krishna. Doesn't matter how we chant, or we have taken the initiation, that is going to suffice, and we'll be going back to Krishna. No, that is not sufficient. Yes, in one sense it's sufficient if Lord wants us to, but very rarely, we see example of Kripa Siddha. Everybody has to perfect their consciousness by being a sadhaka. In Vedic age, or even today's, when Prabhupada started giving Brahmin initiation to Malecha, to all these people who were not even part of the Varnashram system. we can't even call them, Shudra. They were Pancham, Khastam, Sattam, Astam, Chandala type of people, meat eater, illicit sex, all types of stuff. And Prabhupada started making them Brahmana. Said, you all are Brahmin. And once, some disciples of Prabhupada, when they visited India, they went to see one of the, Babaji, or some of the person, in Vrindavan. And they said that, Prabhupada, I was there, I saw that. Prabhupada said you should bless them, give your blessing to them. So why these things were said by Srila Prabhupada? Why Prabhupada gave Brahmin Diksha? Because when Prabhupada gave Brahmin Diksha, he knew that these people have been in a movement for some time. They have been chanting the name of Krishna. They have been following the Vidhi. So Pancharatri Vidhi will help one to advance to come to the stage of Bhagavad Vidhi. So by following the Vidhi, Pancharatri Vidhi, which is basically the Bhadi Bhakti we call. Bhadi Bhakti, like Sadhana Bhakti, one will qualify to become Brahmin. Otherwise, in age of Kali, everybody is born as Shudra. And 99.9% of the people are Shudra. So Shudra, how Shudra can be, Bhakti is, can be done only by Brahmin. That's all. One has to come to the stage of Brahminical, which means pious life, Vachobega, Mansakrodavega, having full control on mind, on Vani. So Brahminical quality has to be there. 26 quality of devotees, now of the Vaishnava, has to be cultivated. So how those quality manifest? By following Pancharatri Vidhi, by engaging into the Vidhi Bhakti very seriously, slowly and slowly, we advance. And then, this higher emotion for Supreme Personality of Godhead will be, coming, just not by, being Vedvada Rataha, and not just by, reciting big verses and not doing anything. So these two class of people, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So this Vedvada Rataha give their own explanation of the Veda. And what they do, they neglect the teaching of the great acharyas. These Vedvada Ratas fall even further into the ignorance than those who have no knowledge of the Veda. The Maya Prit Gyan class of the men are self-made gods, unable to recognize their own foolishness. Never consider how is it that God can be entrapped by Maya. So in this particular series of paragraphs, Srila Prabhupada is attacking these two personalities here. Maya Apaharit Jnana and Vedvad Rataha. So I'm sure most of you are very familiar with this verse. I don't have to really share much. I have been talking about that Namam Duskrito Mudha Prapadyante Naradhamaha Maya Apharit Jnana Ashram Bhavam Ashrita. Gita 7:15 says that these are four types of people. They never surrender to Lord. So Mudha are the gross, people, gross foolish people. And we know who they are, people who are very much living a sense gratificatory life. And there's this Naradmas are the people who appears to be religious. They take bhakti for some specific goal. And they are considered Naradma because bhakti is for real liberation. But they use a very nice tool to do the worst job out of it. So they pretend that they are religious, but their pretension has lower degree of objectives or goals. So those type of people, they fall down also. So they take bhakti, they use for a wrong purpose, and then they leave it. That type of people are Naradma. And then Maya Apahar Jnana, Maya Apharit Jnana people are the people who are so-called scientific, in today's society, and strong mental speculator. So these Maya Apharit Jnana people, they appear to be very smart, okay, and they concoct that Lord is formless, or when Lord comes to the material world, then material world is so strong, everything is captivated by Maya. So all of this scientific and other atheistic type of views that we are seeing from these people. So we can see here that Prabhupada is talking about Maya Apharit Jnana people and Ved Bhadrata. Who are the Ved Bhadrata? These are the people who knows Veda. Okay, if you go and talk to them, they know Veda. They can even give some degree of explanation, but those explanation has nothing to do with Krishna. And what good that does to the person who is listening. Okay, so what is a bona fide association? A bona fide association is that where a speaker is just repeating what is coming from the disciplic succession. That's what Prabhupada says. These people, they are not following any succession. Okay, they are not, saying the things that acharyas have said. Rather, they concoct. Okay, so this Ved Bhadratas people, they are very learned in the Veda. On surface level, they appear to be very expert, but they are not following the great acharya. And these Maya Harit people, they are just concocting based upon their scientific advancement and whatever understanding they have. So both of these two classes of people, do they have knowledge or no? The answer is yes, they have the knowledge. And they seems to be more polished and more smarter than the people who are in Avidya. Okay, but this verse is saying here, these two people are worse than the people who are in Avidya, because they do not follow any disciplic succession. Their goal is to talk about pure devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so that's why these two people are worse than we do not have Vidya. So this is what basically is being spoken here through these two verses. And with that, I'll basically try to hear from you. So as we are studying the purports, even through Srimad Bhagavatam or in Bhagavad Gita, or here with Isopanisad and Nectar of Instruction, we see that there are some repetition. Okay, so I want to hear from all of you. Please share something. Okay, please share. If you don't share anything, that means you don't know, or I just so, or you have nothing to say. So don't do like that. Okay, we are not talking some mundane subject. We are talking about Krishna Katha. So we have to put our enthusiasm to share. So please share, when we see repetition in Shastra, how do you see that repetition, and what learning or impact does it make on your understanding? Okay, is it clear what I'm trying to understand? The question is clear?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So let us a little bit discuss about, we hear that, beautiful verse, Harinam, 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 Kevalam, hello, Evanasti, Evanasti, Evanasti 3 times Katirannata. So likewise, Prabhupada has, spoken these words multiple times, Maya, Parit, Jnana, Ved, Vad, Ratas, our ultimate purpose of all religion is to bring one back to home, back to Krishna, or we are not this, body, we are the soul, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These repetitions that, do you think that Prabhupada is not aware when he is repeating certain thing? So what do you understand? Can you give some technical, good, logical understanding?
So Prabhuji,
Yeah.
I think that Prabhupada is repeating that sometimes in almost every verse, especially the concept of Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Bhagavan concept, all this is the core knowledge that he's trying to tell us, and repeating that every opportunity he gets for us to understand and just feel it and live it every single minute.
Yes. So you said a very important point, the core essential information, right?
Yes.
So information that is core has to be repeated. That's what you were saying, right?
Yes.
Everybody, please note that point. Yes. Core essential information must be repeated. Right? Right? Right, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhu, that's what I think.
Yes. So this is good point. So core essential point must be repeated. That's one factor. Okay. Now, you want to say something more? Likewise, just
one other thought I have is Prabhupada is bringing up these concepts, like he quotes Bhagavad Gita in Bhagavatam and vice versa, and several Upanishads in his purports, to bring back the point that, in all of this literature, all of the spiritual knowledge, it is saying the same thing. It is the Krishna is the supreme.
Consistency, right?
Yes, it's a consistency.
So core essential points, and if something is consistent, then it has to be repeated, right?
Repeated, yeah.
Okay, consistency. Yeah. So you say something and I will get the point. Okay, consistency. Okay, Mataji, you are good. So let other devotees share. Who would like to share? So you made two core essential points must be repeated. Also, repetition shows the consistency.
Also, Prabhu, I can add one more thing. As you said, Prabhupada has given, mission has given the opportunity for all Sodras to become Brahmanas. So that there's elevation, to elevate ourselves from Sodra to Brahmana. Otherwise, earlier, the Brahmana means so he has to born in Brahmanical family.
Yes.
Otherwise, he will not have a chance to come up.
Yes.
So Sudra is turning everyone to Brahmanical qualities and making us Brahmanas. That's the real I liked it.
So how the repetition helps in that?
So the knowledge that he is giving is the mission. You said the Avidya, Vidya, and all those things. So we are in Avidya. So,
I think the point that you are making is very important. You are saying that Shudra, since Shudra has a less intelligence, he has to hear repeatedly. In Vedic time, intelligent Brahmina, once they will hear, they will remember forever. But Shudra has to continuously hear to retain it, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yes, very good. I got the sense of your points. So Shudra has to hear repeatedly. That's very important point. Okay, so points that's being repeated are essential points that we must know. We shall remember those things. we should try to memorize, or at least by hearing again and again, we'll memorize that. That's one point. Second point is shows consistency. Same thing, is Bhagavad Gita saying there are, samhita. It's called three types of, samhita. Okay, Master Samhita, Matra Samhita, Kanta Samhita, Prabhu Samhita, Matra Samhita, and Kanta Samhita. Okay, so Prabhu Samhita is the Samhita like Vedas, who say the things, but says in a very, squeezed way, like sutras, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya, Parasto, Janmadhyashyata. These are the sutras. So Veda basically say things, but Veda will say in a very consolidated way. The same thing, you can hear in Matra Samhita, like Purana Matri Samhita, where the same essential points which Vedas are saying are given, but given in terms of a story, in terms of some pastime, so that people who cannot understand that consolidated message can understand through Puranas, Srimad Bhagavatam, stories. Queen Kunti is saying this to Krishna, or Mother Devahuti is saying this to Kapil Dev. In a story format, the message is given. And then there is Kanta Samhita, which is basically also called wife Samhita, like in a Kavya format. So the same essential message has been diluted at different degree for one to understand, but the essence is same. Kavya Samhita or Kanta Samhita or Matri Samhita or Prabhu Samhita, all of them are saying the same thing, but in a different way. Kavya Samhita will tell, in form of Kavita, Manusyanam Sahasya Sukha Siddhyate Siddhaya Tantepi Siddhanam, something in more like, Kavi, like, some of our Acharya's song. Okay, Prabhu Tava Pada Juge Mura Nivedana, Namani Dhanajana, so like that, so Prabhu Tava Pada Mura Nivedana. This is my request at your feet, oh my dear Lord. I don't want this Dhan and Jana. What I want is that please give me your devotion. So in the very poetic format. So yes, so for Sudha to understand, the Sri Shastra will say the same thing, but it will come down to pick up the people. Yes, good point. Okay, let's hear some more. We have some more time. What are other things?
Prabhu, one more thing is that I think repetition is not just for memorization, it's for realization, because
yes,
the parrot can repeat, like when they,
yes,
or a small child can also repeat just by memorizing, but that doesn't really help. So it's more for like realization. I mean, we hear the same thing again and again, so that we can internalize that and we can realize the truth.
Good point. Very good point. Yes. So repeated hearing will basically enforce us to internalize. Why Prabhupada is all the time saying that we are not this body, or at least we sometimes saying we are not this body. In certain situations, will come back to us, and then we'll understand. Oh my gosh, really, I'm not this body. Like once you start getting old, and body starts giving all the pain, we know. I don't want this pain, but I have this pain. So there is somewhere some other I who don't want this pain. So we're not this body. Very good point. It basically enforces the realizations. It enforces the theoretical understanding to realize knowledge, or the theoretical understanding, is turning, repetition of a Sastri statement will enforce to turn or change the theoretical understanding into the realized understanding. Because at the end of the day, our understanding has to be realized. Realized knowledge is very important. Theoretical understanding is, not going to help us much. So yes, that's what you were trying to say, right, Prabhu? That.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, good point. Okay, anything else? So realization, it helps us to realize. It helps us, Sudra need to be hearing things again and again.
So that there is only one.
To
show that there is only one. That is the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yes, So unification.
Reminding multiple times, saying that, yeah, whatever that you are reading, going here, there and all, there is only one. So why don't you?
Yes.
Okay, way to, yeah.
Yes. So using, using multiple tools to come to one answer.
Yep.
Okay. So you come from right, you come from left, whichever way you come, yes. So even, for example, that's why, this understand of science is not, so bad, because a scientist can use science to prove that, Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just a sort of story. There was, one child who was taught, who has memorized to write the essay, on a cow. So he has memorized cow is a four-footed animal. It has a tail. It has 2 horns, 2 ears. And then he went in a class, and teacher asked him, can you please tell me, can you write an essay on river? So he said, yeah, I can write a letter on the river. So he said, river, is very beautiful. It has, water that flows through it. It has bank. Since there is, a water flowing on the bank, there are, green grasses. And then cows comes and cow eats those grasses. And then after eating grasses, cow gives milk. Cow is such a beautiful, animal. Cow gets all the nutrition from the grass that is on the bank of a river. So he said everything about, cow, but he started from river. So the point here is that that's what we have seen. Srila Prabhupada has also, when he was teaching, his some of the early age disciples, who were not very interested to hear. Okay, so what you all want to hear? We want to hear about, why people are doing this and that. Okay, so in today's society, we see people are so much into sense gratification. But Shastra says, Prabhupada will take there and bring to the point. Oh, Shastra says like that, and then finally say, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So yes, using different approach to come to the same conclusion. And in order to do that, we have to have some degree of repetition. We use all the tools to come to a unified solution. So yes, that's an important point. Anything else? What else could be there? Why repetition is important?
Prabhu, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, what I want to say is similar to what Narayan Prabhu and Bhopal Prabhu were saying. My thing is we are so faulty, so covered with so much faults. We cannot, one time if we hear or do a thing, it would not get to us. So we have to do it multiple times, because we are so much fallen. If we do once and then go about our work, we'll fall back again. We have to do multiple times, or 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, or how many ever times to go to achieve our, to go to the Godhead. So that's what I want to say, Prabhu. So I needed to get it. It needs to be in me always, so that I can grow up, or else I will fall down.
So to retain, if we have to retain something, right? That's what you were saying. Are you talking about that part? Or?
Sort of, yes, Prabhu.
Retain only when we hear again and again, right?
Again and again, yes, Prabhu. Because we are so much fallen. It's my faults are so thick. Yeah, it cannot. I cannot.
Yeah. So I got it. So let's put it that way, Prabhu, just to kind of give some a meaning to it for everybody. So we can retain things only when it's repeated, right? Our retention,
yes,
so for example, in a class, somebody will use some word, right? And then later we say, Prabhu, what word you were saying? That means first time when I heard that, I didn't retain it, right?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Then you say, oh, what did you say? I have done. Oh, you said very beautiful, in a very poetic way. Use something. What was that? Oh, I said that, XYZ. Oh, okay. You said XYZ. So some repetition is needed to, or even if you hear things again and again, then
it will become more clearer and clearer. Yeah,
memory, and you can retain it longer.
correct, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Okay.
It becomes more clearer and clearer and retains well. Yes.
Okay, this is, I mean, yeah, it's yeah, we can take it. We can take that point. Anything else? Let me see who else are there. Okay, that's Sindhu Mataji. You are very quiet today. What's happening?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Nothing, Prabhu. I'm just listening to everybody, and I have the similar points as everyone stated, so I was just quiet because of that. I just wanted to say one thing though, like Prabhupada's mood, because he has seen the truth. He know what it is, and he know what is the importance of all this, and his urge for us to understand.
Yes, this is very important point also. Very important point. So, here's the thing, like, I have seen something, right? The Acharyas, they have realized, right?
Yes, Prabhu.
And they know that for sure that this is the truth. Then they will basically, that's another thing. A realized person, what Prabhu said, it turns, subject into our realized knowledge. So once we have realized, then we try to basically share that realization. We again and again we try to tell people. Okay, so realize, and that's why the acharyas, when we hear their write-up, it's very consistent. Okay, because they have, through the process of bhakti, they have realized the same absolute truth, and everyone says the same thing. Bhakti Siddhanta Swami Maharaj said, Prabhupada said the same thing. In fact, what Bhakti Vinod Thakur said was supported by Bhakti Siddhanta Swami Maharaj, our divine grace like Prabhupada, our Guru Maharaj, and we have to be like that. So the realized knowledge doesn't change, and realization, since it has been realized by different person, the same truth is being repeated again and again. Okay, so we are running late, but one also very important thing is that I didn't hear that, or maybe somebody.
Can I say something?
Yes, Mataji.
So Prabhupada, I feel like he repeats some things in every opportunity he gets, is because if somebody gets in contact with even one verse of the book or one page of the book, he gets the full message. I heard it. Yeah.
Can you give some example?
Yes, Prabhu. It's a real example that I had, somebody forwarded me, that there was one person in Russia. He was a butcher in a factory of that makes the meat. It's an animal killer. I mean, that was his profession. And for years he has been doing that. When one day he wanted to take a break, he came out, and his clothes were bloody and all that. And he finds a paper which is crumpled and thrown away. He just opens it and he reads. In that, Prabhupada talks about how animal killing is a sin and everything. That changed his life. And he goes out to see who dropped that paper, and then he eventually connects with the people, and they say, oh, this is some book that those people gave it to us. And then finally they connect to the devotees, and that person now, he is preaching all over the world about cow protection. So that's why I feel like one page, so Prabhupada doesn't leave an opportunity. He wants to say it, so even we spend 2 minutes and read that one page, we get the message.
Okay, thank you, got it. So one thing that we have to also know, that anything that has been repeated again and again, we must memorize that. We must, remember those things also. So if something is repeated, like Harinam, 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 Yuva Kevalam, Harinam is the essence of this age. So we should remember that although I am doing so many other things, we should know that Harinam is the real process. So anything that has been repeated is also by default. It comes to us that we memorize or we remember. We must know that. So our knowledge, anything that, or first, if I have list of things, okay, that I have to learn. we all have to learn. Always, be in a learning mode. Don't think that, I have learned a lot. I'm always trying to be a good student, not a teacher. Always, inquisitive, this part I haven't finished, I have to study this part, I have to study that part, I want to study level by the small books. What are the things, that I have always been in a learning mode. And in a learning mode, you will have list of items that you will have to learn. Okay, we all are a student. So the first thing that we have to learn for sure are the things that is basically, repeated. Things that has been said again and again and again and again. Those things, we should know. Then, we start from there and we learn other part. So anything that's been repeated also tells us that we need to know this thing for sure. Our concepts should be clear on those elements. Okay, thank you so much. Sorry for going a little over, but it's good. Don't think that it's going over. My Guru Maharaj or other, acharyas or other devotees. When they get into katha, they'll they keep on talking. So we are releasing it. What else we have to do? I know, we have to it's releasing, So don't complaining that, oh, too much time I'm giving into bhakti. Nothing I'm giving. I'm doing nothing. We are doing nothing. So please do more. Please do more and, make our life successful. Thank you. With that, I would like to